This podcast is brought to you by Hoare Chartered Accountants. Hoare Chartered Accountants are based in Galway City and are a leading provider of audit, accountancy and taxation services. For more information, visit hoarecharteredaccountants.ie. You're welcome along to the Maroon and White pod. So this evening I'm joined by Jeffrey Lynskey to look back on Galway's win over Dublin, which now puts them into the Leinster final on Sunday week against Kilkenny in Croke Park. Jeff, first off, like if you compare this time last year, we were out of the championship and now looking ahead to a Leinster final 12 months later, it's some turnaround.
Yeah, look, 12 months when you think about this time last year, yeah, definitely. And I suppose the league campaign that they had at the start in the Leinster Championship, I said a lot of us didn't foresee, what was going to happen next couple of games. So obviously, look, the lads had a lot of good work done, and performance levels are definitely on the way up. Like 29 points a series scoring, and like every performance since the Offaly game, you've seen improvement in them. And I suppose, from a form point of view, it's really important, that the confidence levels now are rising as well. Because look, if Kilkenny and Leinster final.
Just on it as a whole, like it's obviously Mihal year one. Do you think it is a big help, obviously, that he's previously worked, like, some teams might have a limit if it's year one with a manager, but like to accelerate this and get to Leinster final in year one, it is a big improvement.
Yeah, look, his management team, with Noel and Franny there, it's the cohesion between them. Obviously, it's not a new setup, and the lads that are there, say previously, would know the management style, the management structure. So that would help, definitely, the team. And obviously, look, as I said already, the performances, since the Kilkenny game, and like I was down at the Offaly game, um, you could see, a different, I wouldn't say different style, but a different collective in terms of how the group was functioning. In terms of, I suppose, the work rate was a huge area that they've improved on since the league. And now they're creating, obviously, the scoring chances. I suppose the only worry, Paul, would probably the lack of goals, goal creation, especially, so like that's probably one area for them to kind of, I suppose, to address, especially against Kilkenny and Leicester final.
Overall, were you impressed with the performance in that victory? I know it was only 5 point win in the end against Dublin, but they were comfortable really in that last quarter, bar those two goals Dublin get to the end.
Yeah, look, they managed the conditions really, really well. I thought Dublin, I was kind of surprised by how Dublin played, and I suppose the quality of their play at times. Now, that was probably down to Galway's attitude and mindset and work rate as well. I thought our middle third, so Sean and Ann especially, was very industrious. Especially, in the first half, coming in, linking play, building play. We got really good scores against a difficult breeze, and that kind of set the platform for them just after half time, where they kind of nullified any threat that Dublin had. And obviously, look, Donald Burke is a huge loss to them because he's the main fulcrum of their attack. But I just thought in the second half, they squeezed the life out of Dublin in terms of, I suppose, winning their puck out, and that gave them a huge platform then. And our backs were fairly comfortable. I thought we were in top midfield, and Anthony and Bino inside. They did make the ball stick, which is a hugely important part of any senior team now at this stage. And they were cycling the ball well. And sure, David Burke got probably, with I think, two passes off Anthony, and one really good puck out of Dark in the second half as well. Like, and Bino was kind of foraging on, I wouldn't say good quality ball, but he was around. The players were kind of offloading to him. So like it was really important for him too, like to get the 5 points.
Yeah, I know you were writing about it in your Irish Times column, and for anyone who hasn't seen it, go check it out about the game because it's an excellent piece of analysis there. But on the puck out, you felt Galway got huge joy off it. Was it a different squeeze? Was it aggressive? Was it something you haven't seen from Galway, or how would you describe it?
Like it was, you wouldn't call it a full press, but you'd call it, I suppose, a half press, But the Dublin weren't comfortable working the ball out, but Galway were really aggressive on, say, the first phase in terms of attacking it, and then obviously the second phase. And both wing backs, TJ in particular, like TJ got one really good score in the second half. But it was the turnovers, Paul, that they weren't getting in the earlier part in the league, high up the pitch, that's making a huge telling factor. Like John Fleming has, I suppose brought a huge amount of energy to that side of the wing. He in the second half, particularly, two or three surging runs off the pitch, you know, getting the ball out of trouble, and like his industriousness as well on the wing is really important to them. I think about two turnovers came for him alone, just staying goal side of the defender. Making the defender work, bringing him to the sideline, and then the one, I suppose, the big one then was Cahill coming after that, and the ball fell to Bino, he tapped it over the bar, you know. But it was just all the big pillars that they needed in terms of their own puck out, the puck out stats, long puck out, second half few times. Like I wouldn't be happy with the Dublin back coming out with clean ball and puck out, especially like you need to be competing there. But like overall, in terms of if you're looking at it from a point of view of attitude and mindset, puck outs, how they're playing the game, especially now, and the way they're using the ball, you would be very happy.
It's something that's been labelled like Galway numerous times over the last number of years, style of play and delivery of ball inside to the line. Are they two areas where you see massive improvement?
Yeah, and the acid test is going to be against the Kilkenny full back line of Mickey Putler, Hugh Lawler, and Tommy Welch. So if we can make the ball stick inside there, then you're you have a huge chance of winning a Leinster final. But there was a lot of shots though with Galway. I call them no pressure shots in terms of the areas of the pitch where there was no Dublin defender putting any pressure whatsoever on the midfielders or the middle third players getting shots off. That won't happen against Kilkenny. You know, they thrive on their work rate and their attitude, and obviously they're hooking and blocking. It's a kind of key cornerstone for what they do.
Overall, in the first half, like we were against the breeze, they managed conditions really well there.
Um, Yeah, look, the first 10 minutes was fractured enough in terms of the quality of the play, Paul, both sides. In terms of us delivering the ball inside, to like Cahill started inside, and then was kind of had a free roll. Then you had Anthony that was giving them a lot of depth, and then you had Bino there as well. But like their interplay was really really good. There was one really good score in the first half. I think the ball. Went out to Anthony. Anthony put it across the Call and Bino came on the loop. You know, it was a really quality score in terms of phases of play. And that's what you're looking for in any forward unit, that they're kind of throwing the ball around. And then you want a good spread of scores as well. And that's what we're getting.
That patch, say after halftime, that was really the difference there when Galway got those scores.
Yeah, the first 10, 15 minutes after half time, obviously we got, quality scores like TJ went up the pitch, as I said already. Tom chipped in with two, kind of wheeling then, got three on the wing. Brian added to his couple in the first half. And then like Carl missed only, I'd say one free to drop short all game. But like you're still, I suppose I'm looking at it from the point of view, yeah, you need to be creating that just one goal chance. You're going to need to get a goal in Leinster final to beat these guys. Because if we offer up the opportunities that Dublin got, the Galway defence was, really, really good. Like Jack Grealish come on, got a brilliant block. Park Mannion got a good block as well, but they were really good in that aspect of it. But it's just the chances that they coughed up. If that's a Kenny forward, they're going to be finishing to the back of the net.
On the goal chances, like we've didn't get a goal the last day, didn't get a goal against Kilkenny. We got one against Wexford, and obviously the Offaly game and Antrim game, they're comprehensive. So we obviously had easier opportunities there to score goals. Why is it that you feel we're not even creating many chances? Because even the last day, there wasn't too many chances that you could really remember.
No, and the Dublin keeper had no save to make. I look, it's it's a team finding itself. Um, they're obviously getting the scoreboard moving and just keeping it moving. So it's like a death by a thousand cuts, really, with the amount of points they're getting. And I suppose after that, then you're relying on your forwards to get a ball one on one inside, Paul, and taking them on. And that's what you're looking for. That aspect of the play will be added to what they're doing over the course of the year. So for me, it's Anthony Burns is a brilliant finisher. And he's a goal threat, but he didn't get any quality ball where it was just in front of him. Now he's doing a brilliant job of making the ball stick inside. He's recycling it really, really good, but he needs just one quality ball where he's getting it on the half turn and he's taking somebody on. And I'd be fairly confident enough if he gets one chance, he'll finish it. And the same with Brian. Brian was unlucky probably first half. He spun onto his left and struck a good shot. It just went wide. It was going top corner. But after that, then it's players breaking from deep then and creating overlaps. Um, and that's what you're looking at really. And suppose that's where you need a Tom Monaghan breaking through there. David Burke is doing the traditional job of just kind of sitting, protecting the boys, and then linking play and hitting really good quality ball inside for the boys. But I think it's an aspect of play that will come hopefully in the Leinster final.
Is it more of a sense of more directness? Do you know, even if you consider Cork throughout the league, if Brian Hayes or Alan Connolly got the ball, it was go all the time.
Yeah, but like Cork have runners from deep, like on top of Ryan Hayes winning the ball around the D and he's offloading to the runners. But like Alan Connolly and Shane Barton, these lads, they will once they're inside the 45 on a one, they're going to take you on. And I suppose that's a part of our game that you're hoping Connor Whelan, will do against Kilkenny. John Fleming is another really good finisher as well. So it's not that I'm hyping this up to be what it is for a Leinster final, but you're kind of looking at it from the point of view as Kilkenny are hitting 30 points in every game. We need to be hitting 30 points as well to come Leinster final time, and it's going to be, I wouldn't say it's going to be a shootout, but it's going to be the team that obviously creates the highest number of chances and converts into one. But I suppose the big thing from Sunday was Dublin created chances, just didn't convert as much as Galway.
On the other hand, you're scoring 29 points is that's obviously a huge positive.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The over 40 something scoring chances created to hit whatever 67% is a really good average to get from play. They're hitting over 90% plus from their frees. Um, but the shots that they got off, and with a couple of wides, some of the wides, you were kind of going, they should have converted. But like there was no pressure shot in any of them shots they were getting against Kilkenny. It's going to be a different story. But like all you can do is be impressed, Paul, in terms of how they've bounced back from that first result and how they've improved from game to game. And look, it's probably been a tough couple of weeks in relation to underage hurling, with the results. But like at least with the seniors, we've a good performance and a Leinster final to look forward to.
Do you think, like inside the group, how do you go about going after goal chances now in the Leinster final?
And the Eamon O'Shea there, so
Yeah.
if there's someone going to unlock on that, I presume it's going to be him. I presume, look, they're working on it in training, to be working on 3v2s, 4v3s, that kind of thing. You
Do you think
know,
it'll be something they're focusing in on now?
no, I think the big thing for them was how they reacted since the first round against Kilkenny, and the important thing was, look, we were all going out to Offaly, um, just hoping that you see shoots of recovery, and we saw that in abundance. Um, and obviously the Wexford game, then the answering game, you could see a big step up, and obviously the last day. But like it's something that every team works on the pod, to be honest with you. But like if you have someone like Eamon O'Shea as your coach and ticket, like he prides himself in forward movement and getting the players to the shooters and creating them chances for them to finish.
On the starting 15, when Dahi goes off, we obviously concede those two goals and he gets obviously sent off against Offaly as well. But we do seem to be a lot harder to break down when he's there. Is it really already shown his importance to us this year?
Yeah, look, I suppose his positioning, he sees danger. and obviously when he's there, like he do have a huge physical presence around the square, and there's not many teams going to, I suppose, cut us open when he's there. Jack Grealish come on, like did fine. I presume Darren will be back for the Leinster final, so that's another important cornerback that we're going to need, like because look, their two inside forwards is our own Cody. Mullen will be on the wing. Tej is going to be inside. John Donnelly, um,
Will Darren get back in now, do you think?
depends on what matchups that they go for. Like Cody's a huge matchup. Fenton seems to do well on TJ Reid. Um, that's another probably possible matchup that'll suit what the boys are doing. Um, will Darren get back in? Um, look, based on his form in previous games, you'd say yeah, but like it's this is going to be like a war of attrition again, Paul. This Leinster final. It's going to be very physical, so you're going to need a very very strong bench, to finish it out. So I'd say, look, a fit Darren will probably start. He's going to start. Obviously, someone's going to lose out then.
And even, like, in fairness, TJ Brennan deserves massive credit. Didn't really get a look in under Henry's management, really, when it came to championship. But throughout these 4 games where Galway have gradually improved, he's been one of the most consistent performers.
Yeah, look, TJ, like we had him underage, very solid guy. Has won whatever three Fitzgibbons. He's a multiple All-Star winner that fits. You don't get them accolades unless you're performing at a really high level. And I look, that position wing back really, really suits him. He's good in the air. He hits a good quality ball inside, and he's able to take a score. Um, Leinster final is going to be a different story altogether, though, because look, if he's marking, he'll be marking Mullen probably. And the far side, then you're going to have obviously John Donnelly, like, and there's it's good two wing forward that you're going to get in the country.
Yeah. How do you feel Gavin's grown into the sixth role?
He probably just got caught under one ball in the second half, physically on a puck out. Look, Gavin's distribution is superb. I think he senses danger more. Took did one tactical foul, where he had to hold on to someone that were breaking through in the second half as well. It was Keane Sullivan. But yeah, look, he's developing. But like the inter-county teams that play around you, like what you're looking for is when the ball's won around the middle third, that he's in the pocket and the boys are reciting the ball back to him, and then he's distributing good quality balls either to the half four lines or inside. But yeah, look, I'd be fairly happy with him thus far in terms of his own development.
Even Keenan down on the other wing, he's really grown into it since he's went back to that number 5 role. Two
Yeah,
good points the last day.
yeah, I think it's his best position. He's coming onto the ball, and like the modern game now for the wing backs, it's nearly a bit like football in terms of up and down the pitch,
Hmm.
and they're an out ball then as well. If they're able to shoot, it's even a bigger help. He got 2 points the last, as you said. But again, look, it's going to be a different test the next day against the two wing forwards of the caliber of Kilkenny, and there'll be no better lads now to kind of front up against this Kilkenny outfit.
You mentioned about how David's dropping back into his traditional role that he usually plays, but on Brian Cannon's performance man of the match, 5 points the last day. Cannon himself, he's kind of been threatening to do that in every game throughout the championship.
Yeah, if you get the right ball into him, look, he'll win any ball, but if you can get the right ball into him, and he's a foreign player in terms of he usually, once he hits the heights a bit, what he did the last day, he usually follows suits in the next couple of games. And look, who'll pick him up? You're probably looking at Mickey Butler, probably pick him up, or Hugh Lawler if he's on 14, and then who's pick up? Usually Cahill, if he's doing that role again, Mickey Butler probably pick him up and follow him out the pitch. And like the good thing the last was like Cahill has been excellent, for them. He didn't play the answer game obviously, and he didn't hit a point from play the last day. His possession count was probably single figures. Um, but like you had a forward unit that was functioning really, really well in terms of the scores that were creating it for them.
Yeah, even with Kincannon 5 points the last day. If we can get that more quality ball inside, as you mentioned, like him and Burns can be the goal threats inside.
Yeah, and like with Brian and Anthony, they're different in terms of what they can bring. Like Anthony has come a huge way in the last say, 4 or 5 years, in terms of his form with Loughrea and bringing that to a county setup. And I suppose a lesson to kind of any young fella who doesn't play a huge amount underage with Galway and then develops himself, early 20s, and then obviously gets a stage with Loughrea to perform. Um, and the other part of the game that he's brought is as a team player. He's not just a shooter now. He's recycling the ball back out the field. Um, and
Shown huge character as well because even after that league game, I think it was against Limerick, he didn't really play much at all after that.
no, and that's what any player's trajectory, Paul, is not going to go in straight lines for them. It's going to be peaks and troughs. And it's how you respond when those difficult moments come. So obviously he's there still learning his trade, probably enjoying it, and he's obviously performing at a high level in training. Um, and like obviously since the Limerick game, he only came on in the a couple of early rounds, and then obviously then he's back in then, and obviously against Antrim, and he's back in against Dublin the last day, and
Yeah, wasn't on the 26 for the first two games.
yeah, well done on the 26, and then look, you have Colin Malloy then as well to come back, who was again, a huge player in the college there for the last couple of years in terms of what he was scoring and the top scorer from playing the championship. And then you're kind of going the fireman against Offaly, which is great to see, and him doing what he's done at Fitz level, and seeing him then obviously doing that against Offaly. It's probably caught Offaly offside as well, in terms of they weren't expecting him to start, and it's nice to see players like that, Paul, that they're there and they're working away. There's no hype about them, and obviously they're brought in and they get their chance and they take it. That's hugely rewarding for them and obviously for the management setups as well, in terms of that.
Similar to that bolter thrown in, and it's nearly between Burns, Colin Malloy, Declan McLaughlin, like all these players are nearly battling it out now for the one position.
Yeah, and that's what you look. You want a healthy competition, within the setup, and it's I suppose hard for the lads who don't make it either outside the 26. That's hard for them as well. And that's a hard job for management too, trying to keep them lads happy because that's the hardest part you have as an intercounty level. It's not the top 15 or it's not the lads who come on. It's trying to keep all the rest of the lads motivated and in line, and coming in with their best foot forward at training. But yeah, look, it's really enjoyable to see these lads coming in, and obviously you have your established players for the last couple of years, but you have these lads who've played a bit underage, played colleges hurling, and now they're at this level as well, and they're performing well.
12 months ago, when you were on the podcast, you mentioned John Fleming's name. You obviously seen something in John. Was it sort of the one why you couldn't understand why he was in there? Like why it took this long?
Um, I was based on his form for Rose with the Go 20s. 17, he didn't play the final because he broke his foot, but our probably most consistent perform at under 20 level. Like they were the COVID years was John Fleming, and then his form with the Fitz, he was again along with Brian Concannon, our top three performer every day that we went out. Um, I you often presume that they will get an opportunity, but the opportunities he got under Henry's time, was he probably ready himself for it? I don't know. Was he ready physically? Probably not there yet. He probably needed, another year or two, and I suppose Noel would know him well as well from being air court.
Yeah, of course.
And that would have helped him as well, in terms of feeling comfortable. He's somebody from his own club. And obviously then when he got his chances this year, And believe it or not, he's probably best positioned is inside the inside line. He's,
Yeah.
yeah,
He got in their 20s actually. I was only thinking of that last year.
yeah, his
14, I
best,
think. Yeah.
yeah, his best position is probably in the inside line. But you've a plethora of players there now. So if you're looking for someone to score goals, John will score them with one hand, two hands, any which way. John will score them for you. But yeah, look, it's another story out of another underage hurler. It doesn't go in straight lines, and has a stage and an opportunity, and he's brought back in, and it's nice to see.
He's actually a vital cog in the system too, with the role he's playing this year.
Yeah, look, he's picking ball up deep, carrying it out of defence, and it's 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 a position that probably suits him. I'd say he's what age now? He'd be 24, 25 now. I'd say in the next 2 or 3 years, hopefully he'll develop even further and he'll become an inside threat for us as well because look, he's fairly accurate as well off both sides and he's very strong to hold up the ball and win his own ball.
Bringing Wheelo out's really rediscovered his form as well.
Yeah, look, he's probably enjoying it because every day he's going out, he has to mark the best fullback in the country. And that's tough going. You're marking very physically imposing players like Hugh Lawler or Tom Morrissey, all these lads that he's had to mark and it's probably given him a new lease of life. And I'm not saying that the wing backs are easier to mark than the full backs, but he's probably a lot physically stronger than a lot of wing backs that are out there. But again, he's doing a huge amount of good work out there in terms of his work rate and his attitude. Um, in terms of his ball winning ability, he's now a puck out target as well, and obviously his work rate, and he's a good shooter from distance as well. So like that's hugely important. Like they're hard positions to fill, Paul, the two wing forward spots. But you're relying then heavily on your half back line to kind of feed your ball because what you don't want to do is what Dublin did, especially is be hitting long balls in, bypassing the half forward line, and your half back line are sitting, mopping up ball, and like Galway are you can see a style of play with Galway, Paul, in terms of their system and their structure, um, and
Not really a traditional team when you take it with the two wing forwards because obviously you have Sean Lennon and David, and then you have Tom Mullen who obviously kind of dropping deep as well, and then you have Conor Whelan and John Fleming, and obviously Colin Mannion's dropping deep then too at stages.
yeah, at stages, but I think Cahill stays higher up the pitch. Like I'd say, he probably just goes as far as to 45, and he's finding pockets then once Whelan and John are going out. He's probably finding pockets of space there, and the lads are feeding them. But like their team cohesion is taking shape in terms of like they're finding each other and they're building phases of play. But look, it's like any team that it's the battle of the two wing forwards really, like trying to get them out the pitch, trying to suck the half back line out and create the space then for your inside forwards that you can distribute ball inside. Um, but it's going to be interesting against Kilkenny because obviously the lads would have learned a huge amount from the first day. They're probably best 15 on the pitch apart from Darren. Um, and then I I'd say from the lessons that they've learned, this is probably what they just need at this stage of the year to kind of carry them forward.
And just before we look ahead to the Leinster final, how important do you think it was to get a victory over Dublin because it had been quite a while?
Well, it's their first victory in Parnell Park, Paul. So in terms of confidence for the group and for the management, it's extremely important. I suppose it would have helped them as well that Mihal and the boys were up there for the last couple of years, so they would have the inside track on all these lads. But it's just really important for, I suppose, hurling, but then Galway as well, like that. You have your flagship team doing well. We're getting into June. We're still involved in the championship, which is hugely important. And you wouldn't like to be in a situation that Wexford and Waterford are in now at present, like that they're finished for the year.
Mm.
That's it. I suppose that's a conversation for another day.
Then looking ahead, obviously, to this Kilkenny game, do you think round one result will it be mentioned much?
I'd say, look, they would have learned from it. They would have learned an awful lessons from it. Like we got no traction up front that day. We were turned over fairly easily. Pitch was still kind of soft at that stage of the year as well. And I think the team that's there now is completely from the team that started the first day. That team were coming in after getting beaten, by I don't know, 2 or 3 games in a row, by
Yeah.
sizable margins. So like, it's kind of a perfect storm in lots of ways too. Like because Kilkenny are going to be hot favourites for this, especially after what happened the first day, and our lads tend to when there's nothing expected of them, to put in a huge shift, and it'd be great to kind of, I suppose what happened a couple 2 years ago, it'd be great to get one back in them, and just to keep hurling going for the summer.
We've had a good record against Kilkenny when it comes to the round robin phase, but Leinster final, as you mentioned, that famous Killian Buckley goal, that has really hurt us, and they have hurt us in Leinster finals over the last while. Mentally, there's probably a bit to that.
Yeah, but like, yeah, possibly, but players are very good at forgetting past performances. And I suppose the confidence levels are probably on the way up after the wins that they've got. And the defeat to Kilkenny is also a good way, Paul, of keeping everybody on edge and focused and tuned in, supporters as well. So I don't think it's going to be a huge factor for the Leinster final. I think Kilkenny will be more worried because they won't know what goal was going to turn up. And that's traditionally been their problem over the years. So like I'm I'd be fairly hopeful that we'll have a right chance at it and a right crack at it on June the 8th.
With Kilkenny over the last while, since that game, obviously lost to Wexford, which is hard to believe, but that has happened in the round robin for them. Dublin showed glimpses as well of how to get at them when it came to Nolan Park. So the results they haven't been set in the world of light since that game.
No, but they've a great habit of turning up for Leinster finals, Paul, and getting it done. Something that we haven't been doing. Our record in Croke Park hasn't been great over the last while, and it's probably something that's on the back of the mind of the lads' heads as well to kind of put a wrong that was done 2 years ago. But like, look, Kilkenny, where are they? Like there's a lot of hype and talk about Munster, but then when you see Kilkenny have a habit of turning over a Clare or turning over a Limerick, they have the hurlers that will do it, the backs that will kind of, you know, capable of stopping any top forward. Luke Hogan midfield, is it? I've been taken by him now. Is it Luke?
Oh, Kilkenny, Jordan
Luke,
Malloy, sorry, yeah,
yeah, Jordan Malloy. Is Jordan Malloy?
Jordan Malloy, yeah.
Yeah, Jordan Malloy midfield. I've been taken by him now. He's very good at breaking the line and arriving just at the right point.
He
In terms,
caused us big problems the first day.
yeah. So him especially, and like I said, TJ's only probably last year as well. Like so like you haven't got the Henry factor this year now. So that's not there now for them. But look. They have serious players in an awful lot of positions, and they can go toe to toe with anybody. And I suppose it'll tell us exactly where we're at in 2 weeks' time.
As you're mentioning there, it is nearly the perfect situation in one way.
Yeah, look, they're going to be favourites for us. We arrive in, with a good few wins under our belt, but performance level's good. But we're going to need to find another level then, obviously, for them. And we're going to need to tie down on Cody, Mullen, John Donnelly. There's another Donnelly as well up there as well. That's doing
Even Donnelly, yeah,
yeah, Stephen Donnelly. Like he's a handful as well. And then it's how they tackle the problem of Cahill. If he's moving around up top up there, I presume they'll designate Mickey Butler. That's what he does when Tony Kelly's at the same has the same role with Clare. And then it's probably getting after Hugh Lawler. and we don't seem to be able to get after him a huge amount over the last couple of years because he's a big cog for them.
We just trying to avoid him.
Yeah, but then you're losing out on Frank O'Cannon then, like, Um, I wouldn't avoid him, but it's hitting the right type of ball in. You need to get David on the ball as much as possible. And feeding that ball to the inside line.
It's something different for them to think about now, though, with Conor Whelan out the pitch.
Yeah, it is. And on that wing will be Paddy Deegan. Um, that'll be an interesting matchup as well. Um, I presume David Blanchard will be back for them. He's kind of missing the earlier rounds. I didn't see the Wexford game yet. Um,
They kind of mixed and matched that team in fairness.
they mixed and matched that team. Yeah. So like John would be used to him from Fitzgibbon hurling now. So that'll be interesting that side as well. Like yeah, look, when you go through we're like that first game, would I read too much into it at the time? I know there was a lot of I suppose there was a lot of headlines about it because of the performance levels and the result. But for me, it was a good time of the year to get it. It was the right time, Paul, to get it. And from that, in fairness to the group, they bounced back extremely well.
Yeah, well, if you're going by the Dublin game, they've actually played with a back six of Mikey Butler, Hugh Lawler, Paddy Deegan in the corner, and then Blanchfield, Richie Reid, and Mikey Carey in the half back line.
Yeah, did Adrian Mullen start one of the games at six, or was that
He's
just a dummy
he,
team?
he started at six at the weekend, all right. Yeah, and someone obviously we haven't mentioned is Mossy Keown as well, the form he's in. He's
Now, Mossy's goal return per game, I'd say his ratio is nearly a goal every game or for every two games. So he's going to be another player that you have to tie down for them. But look, I think Richie Reid can be got at because look, he wants to sit in the pocket, which is fine. Um, if you have Cahill there and the boys are finding him, and Cahill's shooting accuracy is really, really good this year. I think we can hurt them there. It's hurting them as many positions as possible. And it's always an enjoyable day out, Paul, as well, because it's not that it's knockout, but it's you have an opportunity of going up to Crow Park, witnessing the lads play. I'd be fairly sure they're going to be a huge performance, and it could be like 2012 all over again, where it was nothing expected of them. And we go home with the Bob O'Keefe Cup, and that'd be a huge boost for the summer.
just as well. Obviously Mackesy, you'd expect Keenan probably to go on him, I'd say. Um,
Yeah, but did he start? He hasn't been starting. He started the earlier rounds, but he didn't start. So I was keeping an eye on him. He didn't start.
yeah, he actually didn't start the Dublin game unless he comes back in now.
Yeah, unless he comes back in. So that was because Mullen wasn't playing. I'd say Mullen would be starting ahead of him and John Donnelly the far side.
Yeah,
And
Eddie
then
Ryan probably 11 then.
Billy Ryan probably 11. And he's been probably important for them in terms of another ball winner.
Yeah.
Because earlier on in the league, he was, attracting a lot of heat for puckouts from Owen Murphy, so he was probably a new important, I suppose, player for them. Who's the other midfielder that they have with Malloy?
King Kenny and Jordan Malloy, they're kind of very similar, really.
Yeah, they're kind of very similar, and he's really Keane is very good at coming in, winning dirty ball, winning rooks, coming out with it, initiating frees, um, and he's popping over points as well. So that'll be an interesting matchup as well. Will it be David? Obviously, with Sean, but I think Sean, like the fairness of Sean Land, the last I thought he got through a lot of work. He got through a lot of good work. Chipped in with a point, worked hard, helped out defence and attack. Yeah, look, it, it's a good game to get, Paul. And I think it's probably going to work out for us better than it would for Kilkenny in terms of what's expected. As I said already, they'll be firm favourites for it.
Just in terms of All Ireland conversation, where do you think they are currently? Because they're in a Leinster final now.
Look, if based on, like, sure, all the hype was about Cork and they went down to the Gaelic grounds and they got eaten. To They got eaten by Limerick. Um, look, based on what's at now, where you're at now, you're looking at Limerick one, Cork two, I'd say Kilkenny three, and then you have Tip and Gore probably fourth at present in between. But that could change. I think there's a lot of hype about Cork, an awful lot of hype. Um, and I think it's upset Limerick, and you're down there now working. I'd say it's upset Limerick people, Limerick hurling fraternity an awful lot by the narrative that's been wrote that look, they're going to win the All Ireland this year. Because the performance levels they put in, like you've a reborn Keane Lynch, playing now again, like in terms of his performance levels, like he's found form again, like and then the forwards that are there. Adam English is flying it as well for the midfield. Their inside line, are causing huge amount of damage as well. And then their backs are ferocious, like, in terms of just the physicality of them. And that's like still with O'Connell O'Neill, uh, O'Donovan coming on as well, like, and Aidan O'Connor, so Limerick will probably, for the first time ever, will be finishing with their strongest team come championship. The last 20 minutes, I don't think they probably had that, Paul, for a couple of years. Now, look, touch wood, they'll be hoping they're not going to get any serious injuries, but like they seem to have kind of realised that like um, Morrissey on the wing is chipping in with 3, 4, 5 points per game, and then after 50 minutes, his race is run. They're getting Colin Neal on. And it's a different problem for defences because Colin is a brilliant shooter, and he's very athletic, and he'll carry ball in our teams. So I think they have an edge to them that they didn't probably have last year in terms of the Cork, the Cork hype.
Like we wouldn't have thought this at the start of the year, but if June 8th goes well for us, we find ourselves in the last four.
Yeah, and who do we play? We played the Munster
We
runners up.
Munster runners up, so it'd be likely Cork.
Yeah, yeah, you take that, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, I'm sure Micheál would take it as well. If you told him after the Kenny game, the first day that they'd be getting semi-final against Cork, we'd all have taken that. Yeah,
yeah,
and look, it's not beyond the realms of possibility.
yeah. And obviously, if the Leinster final wasn't to go your way, then you're probably playing Tip in the quarterfinal.
And you take that as well.
Yeah,
It's a kind of probably tip in the Gaelic ground. That's so you'd be fairly happy with that. Like I think the huge result was last Sunday to get the result up in Parnell Park and to get the win up there. But it was the way they won, Paul. They won it. Look, forget about the sending offs. That's you can't control that stuff. But it was the way they won it and how they played. For me, was the most impressive.
just before we finish up, Tip, there is a couple of questions in here from a listener. The first one is asking, is Evan Ireland injured? Are you surprised Evan Ireland hasn't featured more this year?
Um, yeah, look, his form was okay in the league. His form was okay in the league, and I suppose he looks like anything else. It's fairly competitive in there in the inside line and in the half forward line, and it's what role Mihal wants from him. I look like any player, you're going to be very disappointed. You're not making the match day 26. I think you only made it once against Antrim, is it? Yeah,
Yeah.
and like based on his form last year before, like look, he has been performing, he has been shooting. Um, so like you're as I said already, trying to keep them those players outside the 26 motivated is a tricky job. And trying to keep them motivated is really important for the whole group, really, like, so that's that can often decide how your team does during the course of the year, if you keep all these lads on side. But look, knowing Evan, he'll be chomping at the bit of training. I presume they'll have a 15 on 15 this weekend. And if you're performing, like the general rule is you'll get an opportunity on the match day.
Another one that came in. Do you think Leinster Ireland's getting an unfair rap at the minute?
Um, how many games have been shown on RTE?
Or the Galway Kenny was shown the first day, Galway Dublin was shown,
And that was it.
Galway Wexford. Oh no, that was GA Plus. Or no,
That
that
was
was RT, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
So a lot of the time, Paul, it's the media that kind of generate the hype that's around it because you've got the golden egg in Munster hurling. Um, and like the first couple of games were incredible. You know, the first game, the Clare Cork game, you know, it was an incredible game the way it finished, like the Limerick
yeah, it's the
game.
2000s. It's been a bit of a
Yeah, and after that, then like you're kind of going the Waterford Clare game. You know, like Clare obviously had a hangover from last year. Never got to the heights, and then the injuries then to the key backs. You know, Jim Ryan, Cleary have been out the Aidan McCarthy situation. You know, wouldn't help them either. You know, that's a huge distraction for the group. Look, there is a probably a higher quality in certain games, but when it comes to semi-final stage, Paul, it kind of fairly evens out.
mm,
Um, but I think a lot of the stuff that's there is generated by media, you know, in terms of, and look, you're working down there now, you know, I'd say they're look across at Leinster hurling and go, sure, what's going on over there? But like, I do think the championship structure as well. Um, I think it's hard on the Munster teams, especially because it's an awful harder group to come out of. I think they need to look at the four teams probably in Munster and Leinster as a playoff against the Joe McDonagh teams, you know, because it's very difficult.
does the Jeopardy not go then though?
It does, but you're trying to develop and promote hurling, like you know, look at us last year. We were out in May. You know, like you're Wexford and Waterford supporters. Clare will be fine because they won the All Ireland last year, so they'll be okay. But for this year, but they'll be chomping at the bit next year. Um, but it's very early, Paul. They're hurling since February. It's February, March, April, May. They're hurling for 4 months and they're out. Um, and that's not a way for me to develop it. And I've seen the county lads in particular. They're going now nearly 12 months of the year. That's not sustainable for them either. So either push it out or else look at it from the point of view of if we're really serious about developing hurling, I think the 14 once they're 14 in Leinster, there should be a playoff with them with the Joe McDonald and let them back into the championship that way. Um,
Yeah, I don't think there will be an issue pushing it out a few weeks because no club championship realistically is going to start in the next even month. I
no,
think.
but it's where the club player or sorry, it's where the county player gets his break, Paul, is the issue.
That's
That it's not sustainable for the county player to be doing what he's doing. Uh, you know, it's just not. You know, from a human level, never mind from a physical level. Asking these lads to go all year round because the minute they stop with their clubs, so come October, they're back with the counties in terms of gym programs and whatnot. And look, it's a way of life, and a lot of them love what they're doing. That's fine. But like when they get into relationships and stuff, and herself wants to go away, you know, you have to, yeah, you have to take a break. Like, and it's not easy.
for yourself. It's been different watching games this year, but obviously you're writing for the Times now on a weekly basis. As I mentioned, you have the piece on Galway Dublin, but has that been a different perspective watching games from that perspective?
You're watching it from, I suppose, the eye of you have an editor on a Monday morning, you know, looking for material off, and you have to get it in, and you have to make sure it's right. Otherwise, you're correcting it again, and you're under the pump on Tuesdays. But you look, I'm at the tail end of the Masters as well, Paul. So it's kind of tying in with that, you know. So I'm down to the last 2 months. So you're just watching games nonstop. You're tagging and coding games, and you're sending stuff off to be tested, and you're testing your own theories then in terms of the way the game is going. So like I'm fairly busy with that. I have enough on my plate. I've medals under 15s as well that's keeping me going. So if we're finished for the summer holidays on Friday, so I'll be fairly busy over the next 2 months between college work and the Times is probably probably another 3 or 4 articles left. That'll be for the year then with them, like you know. But it's enjoyable work. You know, the feedback has been good in terms of the content, and you're kind of you have a lot of autonomy, Paul, in terms of what you want to do yourself. You know, so if I see something in the game, you know, I can tag it. I can see, you know, what a lot of the teams are doing now. and then you have the footage you see from the games behind the goal, so like you're not getting breaks in play in terms of showing replays and whatnot. But like it's fairly interesting because like you're dealing with academic people as opposed to hurling fraternity people, and they're at a different level as well, in terms of the way they see things, the way things should be done, and it's all learning.
And just finally, Jeff, before we finish, the minors, like it was a difficult weekend last weekend in the Leinster final against Kilkenny. That Kilkenny team really looks like a team that would go all the way, but it's a quick turnaround. They're coming up against Clare and
There.
Alice now on Sunday.
Yeah, look, and as I said to Willie, work on Monday and work. You don't have to wait 12 months. They have an opportunity to bounce back at the weekend, and that Kilkenny team is a serious minor team. That's as good as Kilkenny minor team I've seen. But look, at least the lads have an opportunity to kind of to park it, move on, put performance in, and get a win against Clare, and all of a sudden then you're back up on the horse again. But look, if it was us back in the day, you'd be waiting 12 months, you know, and it's not a nice feeling. Um, and I suppose just the nature of the competition, like they have an awful lot of games now, at minor level, and look, it's only good for the lads. It's not nice when you lose and you lose a final because there is a bit of a hangover from it.
Yeah, even conditions were difficult last week. You'd hope they'd improve. It is a good Clare team in fairness they're coming up against.
I don't know
Yeah.
them, but I haven't been keeping aloof with that. In particular, I've been too busy with the McCarthy teams, looking at them, and I've seen look very little of the under 20s, apart from the Offaly game and their game against Dublin. That's only two games I've probably watched with that. Um, so like it's it is like for me looking at it with the minors that, as I said already, the chance like the next day to kind of park it and move on, and hopefully to get a win.
Yeah, they've been good in games before this. Obviously, as you mentioned, have had a lot of games, but they're obviously making the trip now to Thurles this weekend to take Clare on in the quarterfinal. Do you still see it as a grade that's important or to win, or do you see it more from a development perspective?
I'd say it's probably more of the development. 20s is kind of the metric
Yeah,
now, really, to see where you're at. Um, that'll tell you exactly where the players are at in terms of where they should be. Um, hurling wise, technical and tactical and physical, it'll tell you exactly where they're at when they come up against, but that was a good off that wasn't a bad Offaly team, but they had a lot of injuries. One of the hands were out. Obviously Adam Screeney, Tiergainen was out as well. So they had an awful lot of injuries. And when I looked at them the first day, I was very hopeful. They'd have a long championship, and obviously to come up against a Dublin team, I would have watched that game, that Dublin Offaly game. And Dublin had really pacey inside forwards to put, Offaly to the sword as well. And Dublin put in a really good show on the night, and our lads had a malfunction from play, especially. I think they had 14 wides in the second half alone, and they wasn't from ridiculous positions, they were from scoring positions. But like I heard what Fergal said, he's probably right. You're hamstrung by the competition in terms of you win your first two games and then you're waiting 5 weeks.
yeah, no, I reference the same point. I just think it's
Yeah, it's like for me trying to manage, even trying to think about how to manage the 4 or 5 weeks and keeping everybody motivated. Like you can play challenge games all you want, but the one thing that you want is it's a competitive game. And I suppose that's where Dublin were at a level in terms of, I think they played two games coming into that. They had Kildare, they had Offaly, and then they had Galway. So they're at a different pace and a different pitch, completely from the boys, So yeah, look, it's disappointing, but it's like anything else, they're young, and there's enough stories out there of the Colin Malays and the John Flemings of the world who've lost Leinster finals and Fitzgibbon finals, and they come back.
absolutely. That's all we do time for on today's show. It's the Leinster final up for going now on Sunday week, and that's the focus. And obviously now there's 20,000 juvenile tickets going out to the clubs, so hopefully plenty of Galway clubs can get their hands on tickets for this one and get a good crowd up to Croke Park. But Jeffrey Lynskey, thanks a million for your time.